Forget what you learned in school. Never mind what your parents told you, and disregard what your friends say. From now on, the only people you need to listen to are these guys. For the next several minutes, they'll take you on a journey through the political jungle. And when your journey is over and you're safe at home, they promise you'll be stronger, smarter, and just plain better. So buckle up, hang on to your ears, because your journey starts now.
Oh, the night that Paddy Murphy died was a night I'll never forget. Some of the lads got roaring drunk, some still not sober yet. As long as the bottle was passed around, everyone was feeling gay. And O'Leary came with the bagpipes, some music for to play. Oh, that's how they showed their respect for Paddy Murphy. That's how they showed their honour and their pride. They said it was a sin and shame and winked at one another. Every drink in the place was full the night Pat Murphy died. Now Mrs. Murphy sat in the corner pouring out.
A little bit of foreshadowing for our guest tonight, Steve Dulan. Steve, that's for you. A good old Irish boy from the UP.
And, ironically and fitting, a hint of which country we are in again. We've been here before.
We want to welcome you to another episode of At Odds for another enjoyable journey through the political jungle with your guides, Nate and Brian, where we're broadcasting from the back room of the Dingo and Baby pub and studio in a small northern village in what country, Nate?
Ireland, once again.
Ireland, the motherland. Where today we'll have Steve Dulan, who'll discuss gun laws and more, and we'll talk about different things. He'll be on a little bit later tonight, maybe 20 minutes in or so. What?
I mean, we were planning on having him on the show. Yes. And you know, we asked him to call in, but then I was thinking about it today. Is this whole gun control thing and gun laws, I mean, is it really still relevant, you know, in today's world? I mean, can't we just move past it and just kind of...
You're probably right. I think we should go back to, you know, they're not going to make Twinkies anymore.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
That's
what I'm saying. That was the kind of news that we really needed to worry about, and I don't feel like we hit on that enough.
No, we should probably do a whole episode related to Twinkies and how delicious they are.
I don't want to say this because I'll probably have crowds outside of my house, but I have Twinkies in my freezer.
Oh my God! That's like gold.
It is like gold.
It's like gold.
Protected by several firearms that I'm going to lose in a boating accident one of these days.
Exactly. And I know what lake, but I'm not going to say. We want to remind you this is a live show, and if you'd like to call in to make a comment, ask a question, or complain, mostly we get complaints, you can call in at 248-455-ODDS. 248-455-6337. We'd also love to have you like us. Isn't that nice?
I don't get it.
At our Facebook page. And visit our website, www.atoddshow.com.
Yeah, Facebook.com/atoddshow.
Oh, they'll find it.
Will they?
I don't know.
I hope they do. I hope they do find it.
Want to remind you also in Michigan, a big Supreme Court case that might be coming up on the Capital Area District Library versus every lawful gun owner in the state. Go to michiganopencarry.org and donate to that legal fund. Also want to remind you.
Can you get there at michiganopencarry.org? Or I know miopencarry.org for sure.
I think
they'll find it.
It's Michigan.
Okay.
Open. Yeah, it's something like that.
Okay. miopencarry.org works for sure.
You would know.
Details. I would know, wouldn't
I? All right.
Amazing website design, by the way. I just want to say that organization haven't had any complaints about that, so that's perfect.
Why would you say that, Nate?
No, I just wanted to bring that up.
I see. Did you have anything to do with that website design, Nate?
I did, but that's not why I brought it up, and I think you probably know why I did. But
all right,
I'm not going to
anyways,
go there.
Yeah. Anyways, also Michigan, big Second Amendment march and rally at the state capitol on March 20th. The march begins at 9:30 at Pennsylvania Capitol. The rally starts at 10 o'clock and goes till 2 o'clock. That's 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. In Lansing, that's where the state capitol is now.
Is it?
Yeah, they moved it.
Yeah, I know it used to be in Cleveland, but
I don't think it was ever in Cleveland.
Really?
No, I don't think so.
All right.
All right, I have a presidential quote for you, if you'd like to hear it. Would you like to hear it?
Yeah,
Nate?
I would. Go ahead.
Would you? I don't know if I'm going to do it now.
That's fine. Don't do it.
No, I'm going to. All right, here's the quote. A former U.S. president, even.
Okay.
Not like president of General Motors or anything, of the United States. All right, here it is. Absolute freedom of the press to discuss public questions is a foundation stone of American liberty.
Well, this one's probably not Nixon. Just guessing for a couple of reasons. First of all, you did Nixon last week.
Yeah,
and second of all, he tried to destroy the press with that whole Watergate thing.
Yeah, he didn't.
Which nobody died during Watergate. I want to mention that. Yeah. Four people died in Benghazi, Libya, last year. So just want to bring that up. But
and what about
this
Fast
one
and
reminds
Furious?
me? Yeah, Fast and Furious and drone strikes and. This one reminds me of vacuum cleaners, but I don't know why.
Our president, he's a killer.
That's not funny at all.
It's not.
Herbert Hoover, I think.
Whoa, you got it.
I knew this one.
Herbert
I knew this one.
Hoover.
I knew last week's too.
Yeah, you just couldn't spit it out.
Just couldn't get it out. No.
Yeah, Herbert Hoover actually said that. Moving on now.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about civil liberties again. Probable cause, reasonable suspicion for the police to detain citizens.
I don't know if we should. I've been told one time that you and I aren't very liberty-oriented with our show, so libertarians, because that's what they do if you don't agree with them. But anyway, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I remember that now. Yeah. God,
hilarious.
I couldn't believe that. Anyways, I'm so liberty oriented. I'm not even wearing underwear.
That's true.
That's how free and out there I am.
Yeah, I don't know if that's what they mean, but
no,
Ron Paul could probably use your help over at the UN headquarters if you wanted. So
I don't know if we should go there. All right. Memphis, Tennessee. You got to be careful of those Tennessee cops. A 65-year-old couple were driving when a pair of black police SUVs, a pair, not just one, a pair, stopped the couple a few miles outside of Memphis, and they weren't even speeding. But they did have on the back of their car a Buckeyes, a Wisconsin Buckeye leaf decal. Are you familiar with those?
Wisconsin?
Not Wisconsin.
Ohio.
So,
Cleveland,
Ohio.
where the Michigan Capitol
Wow.
used to be.
I knew it was in the Big Ten.
We need Steve to hurry up and call in.
Yeah, we need him soon. Steve, if you're listening, call in. Anyways, not Wisconsin Buckeye. No, the Ohio State Buckeyes. A leaf decal. You know, the ones they put on their little helmets for good deeds. Yeah, apparently they thought it was a marijuana leaf. And so what? Right? And so the officer said, "What are y'all doing with a marijuana sticker on your bumper?" Yep. And after the couple explained that they weren't drug traffickers or anything like that, and it was just a not Wisconsin, I guess, Ohio. Yeah, Ohio Buckeye a sticker. See, I'm a Michigan State fan, so, you know, I don't know nothing about Ohio State. Anyways, apparently they explained that it was just a Buckeye leaf.
Just a Buckeye leaf, huh? Not a pot leaf.
The police said, "Well, we advise you that you take that sticker off so you's not to cause any more confusion." Well, after being released on their own recognizance, I guess, the Tennessee Highway Patrol nor the Shelby County Sheriff's Office in Memphis had information about the stop, although they did say that a marijuana sticker would not be a sufficient reason to stop a car.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? And you know what? We've had several stories of cars being stopped.
Yeah.
NRA
because stickers.
NRA stickers,
Yeah.
Don't tread on me stickers.
Yep.
Things like
You're
that.
a domestic terrorist, by God.
Yes, domestic terrorists. Everybody's a domestic terrorist. We've went over this again, and that just... I mean, get the drones out. Just make sure you put hollow points in them and get the drones out. That's all that matters. But
that was
completely
foreshadowing
ridiculous.
again, because we're going to talk about hollow points.
And I do want to apologize to anybody who may listen to us in Tennessee. Brian's accent was not
dead on.
was not representative of what he
dead
thinks people
on.
in Tennessee listen to. Because speaking of Tennessee, we are, like we mentioned last time, we're now rebroadcast on Red State Talk Radio, which is headquartered in Tennessee.
Oops.
Yeah, oops. And
oops.
I mean, this may be our last week there now.
Yeah,
since Brian
nice.
talks like this,
been nice being on the network with them.
Wednesdays at 10 a.m. we're rebroadcast. Friday morning at 1 a.m. And Sunday at noon you can listen to our
Saturday
rebroadcast.
morning at 1 a.m.
No, Friday morning at 1 a.m.
I thought it was...
Oh, geez. Check the website and the Facebook page. It's on there. You can also see the schedule on redstatetalkradio.com. It is Friday at 1 a.m., Thursday night, really, Friday morning at 1 a.m., Sunday at noon.
We love the state of Tennessee, by the way.
We do. I like Tennessee. Tennessee has some pretty cool
Highway
stuff.
Patrol maybe have some issues. But
Yeah. Well, I mean, just don't have a Buckeye leaf on your car.
do not.
It's that simple. And if you do, take it off.
Yeah.
When you go through Tennessee, that's all you have to do. It's simple.
Anyways, I guess the couple got back into their car and did not remove the sticker. But
good for them. Even if it was a pot leaf, if I were them, I would put a pot leaf next to my Buckeye sticker and drive around.
Come on, baby.
I would.
Where are we? What was that network we're on?
Red State.
The voice of American conservatism. WRS Digital. Red State Talk Radio.
Yeah, boy.
Good save. They're going to like us again now, I think.
I hope so. I want to have one more week with them. Your buddy, well, actually, the son of your buddy, Rand Paul.
Yes, not Ron Paul.
Yeah, you don't really like Rand Paul.
Yeah, I like Rand Paul. Ron Paul's a little interesting. We have a call. Let's take a call real quick here.
Okay.
Thank you for calling At Odds. You're on the air. What's on your mind?
Uh-oh.
Yeah, this is Jeff. You guys were talking about the folks who got pulled over because they had a Buckeye leaf.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
Wisconsin Buckeye.
There's always a lot of talk. It's called conspiracy when people say, oh, this will never happen. The police won't do that and stuff like that. That's for the people who are nuts. But this is one of the things that actually showed up on the news. It might not have been on the other 95% of the liberal media, but it was actually in the news somewhere.
Yeah.
And, these things, they happen all the time. I remember back in 1975, I took a criminology course, and I was explained that police officers, they are given authority, okay, and they can arrest you for anything.
That's true.
That's just a technicality. That doesn't mean it's right or wrong, but they do have that authority. And we know it happens a lot. People got you look at the whole list of that right-wing assessment, that's pretty much 80% of the population.
Oh, it is. Well, at least 80% that lives between New York and Los Angeles. Yeah, I agree with you. And just because you're paranoid doesn't mean the bastards aren't out to get you.
Yeah.
I got you there.
No,
Dave.
we know that they are. They're not just putting it on the news, though.
I know it.
Yeah, that's
They're
exactly right.
putting all the anti-gun stuff on the news.
And we can talk about the new targets that I saw. Did you see those of little children holding guns and pregnant women holding guns that the Department of Homeland Security can get used to shooting civilians?
Yeah, I don't know if that's exactly what the story was, but I mean...
Well, that's what I'm saying it is. New targets, yeah. Now, and he's right. I mean, people are starting to wake up, though. Polls are showing that. Okay, Rand Paul says the GOP plans to round up illegal immigrants. Is that true, Nate?
Yeah, well, what happened here was the AP released a story that said Paul says he sees voters wanting, quote, somebody who wants to round people up, put in camps, and send them back to Mexico. Now, they left this story up for a couple of days, and the damage has been done.
The damage
from the story
is done
because
you cannot put the genie back in the box.
Everybody who was going to read this story from the AP and all of the other affiliates who were going to republish the story have already done it, and they did retract the story finally and said, "Oh, well, actually,
what he said was
they don't want somebody who wants to round people up, put them in camps, and send them back to Mexico." It was 100% the opposite.
180 degrees?
180 degrees.
Oopsie.
Oops. Yeah.
Oopsie.
And this is, and sure, it was an accident, right? They would never do something like this on purpose and lie,
Lordy.
right? And they retracted it, but like we said, the damage was done.
Yeah.
So you have this crazy right-wing libertarian guy who actually has a crazy father, out here saying that he wants to round people up and send them to Mexico. And, just quietly retract the story, and we'll just move on with
Never
it.
mind, nothing to see here. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Exactly.
Hey, did you see the thing on Colorado with the University of Colorado? If you are attacked?
Yeah, if you're attacked.
This is what they suggest.
If you're a woman and you think
can't guys get attacked?
They can.
I've been raped several times.
Well, I don't think that was a rape, Brian.
If
Anyway,
you
they have
consent?
10 things that you should do.
Okay.
That a woman should do. This is a woman. If you feel like you're being raped.
All right.
Be realistic about your ability to protect yourself. So remember,
True.
You're a woman.
Right.
Okay? Your instinct may be to scream when you're being attacked. That may be your instinct.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Let it out?
Let it out.
All right.
Go ahead and scream.
Good advice.
Kick your shoes off.
Oh.
Because nothing says rape me more than a pair of shoes being on your feet. So if you kick your shoes off, you're safe. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't take time to look back. Just run.
Okay, I'm not sure about that, but go ahead.
Just run. Don't look back. If your life is in danger, acting like Gandhi may be your best bet.
What?
Passive resistance.
Ah.
So I'm thinking hunger strike.
Okay.
I'm thinking sit down strike.
You may not have time for that, but okay.
Bury your head in the sand.
Okay.
Light yourself on fire, maybe. Is that passive? I'm not sure.
So if your life is in danger...
Yep. Passive resistance.
Don't resist.
Passive resistance.
Okay, that's not very good.
So I'm going with the hunger strike, I think.
I don't think that's very good.
Actually,
advice.
Number 6 is my go-to defense mechanism.
You do this all the time with me.
Tell them that you have a disease, or the one I go with, that you are menstruating right now. That's the one I go with. I tell them every time I'm menstruating.
Why
and
can't
they
you
leave.
do both?
They leave.
I have gonorrhea and I'm menstruating.
They don't believe that.
Okay.
They don't believe that then.
They think you might be lying.
This is the one you do, but usually not intentionally.
After a couple
Vomiting
of beers.
and urinating may also convince the attacker to leave you alone.
Perfect. Brilliant.
So, I mean, while you're screaming and going on a hunger strike, pee your pants.
Yep.
They'll leave you alone. Yelling, hitting, biting may give you a chance to escape. Okay, so finally they get into something.
So my 2-year-old does that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Understand that some of your actions on your part might lead to more harm. So it is your fault if you resist this and do anything other than a hunger strike. It's your fault that you were attacked. And any more damage was caused by you. And then, of course, remember every situation is different. Only you can decide how to prevent forest fires.
Those are brilliant tips.
They are brilliant. I think they're pretty good.
Okay. Now, this I don't know. All right, so we got.
What do you think we should do?
Well, we have a soundbite. Do you want to do that or not?
Yeah, we can do the soundbite.
We have a representative in Colorado,
from Colorado,
Joe Salazar, who says this: "Whatever you do,
the night that Paddy Murphy died."
He didn't say that.
he said, "Have a beer."
And universities have been faced with that situation for a long time. That's why we have call boxes. That's why we have safe zones.
Minutes away. That's
why
great.
we have the
safe
whistles.
zones.
Whistles.
Whistles work.
Whistles.
Because you just don't know who you're going to be shooting at.
Really?
And you don't know if you feel like
How
you're
about
going to
your
be
rapist?
raped, or if you feel like someone's been following you around, or if you feel like you're in trouble, and when you may actually not be,
Oh.
you pop out that gun and you pop around at somebody.
Really?
Brian, how many times have you been walking in a dark alley and you felt like you were being raped, but you really weren't? And you had a gun, but you didn't use it. You just peed your pants and told them you were menstruating.
And I vomited a
and
little. Like
This
I
is
did
horrible.
when I heard this. Well, Nate and I discussed this.
Yeah, go ahead.
And we have some alternative suggestions. And what we think is, what you do is you have a gun. I'm going to repeat that again. Number 1, have a gun. Number 2, use said gun.
This is a multi-step process. This is much too complicated. It's easier to just go on a hunger strike.
Repeat use of gun until threat is stopped. Call 911 and ask for an attorney. That's what we suggest.
Seems logical to me.
All right. We're getting a call, Nate, and I'm sure it's Stephen Dulan, the law professor. That's our guest tonight. Are you there, Steve?
I'm here.
How are you?
Not bad. How are you guys?
We're doing pretty good.
Doing pretty well. Thanks for calling in.
You've been pretty popular lately on a lot of different national shows. Pierce Morgan, as I mentioned, CNN a few times, Joy, Bear, wow, Geraldo, all those great guys.
Geraldo's a big gun guy.
Who's going to run, I guess, for some senator, House or something.
As a Republican, which is perfect,
which
right?
is hard to believe.
Yeah.
Well, as I mentioned...
So he says.
Yeah, so he says. Yeah. As I mentioned, Stephen's a gun rights guy, pretty knowledgeable. He's an attorney. He teaches classes on the Second Amendment. He's involved with the NRA nationally, locally, and he's also on the board of directors of Michigan Coalition of Responsible Gun Owners. Stephen, I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on some of the recent talk about gun control again, in particular the assault weapons ban. What are your views on that, the likelihood it's going to pass? Does it work? Has it worked? Things like that.
Well, luckily, it appears as though the assault weapons ban that's been proposed by Senator Feinstein of California will not pass, at least in its current form. But this is an issue that's never going to go away. In fact, there are several state-level proposals pending. I think the most recent one I read about Missouri, where the confiscation, the danger of confiscation is actually right there in the bill. And we're all aware, hopefully everybody who's listening to this is aware of what New York did with the magazine capacity limit.
Right.
And that is probably not constitutional under the Heller and McDonald cases. In fact, I heard an interview with Alan Gura, the attorney who argued the Heller case at the Supreme Court, and his position was that a magazine limit is clearly unconstitutional. I happen to agree with him, but this is a debate that's not going away anytime soon.
Yeah, I'm sure that some of the things that are going on in New York are going to be challenged in court, and if they haven't been already, I'm sure there'll be lots of lawsuits filed on a constitutional basis on that.
Oh, certainly. Yeah. In fact, the trend in the court cases nationwide is really more towards protecting the Second Amendment and the state constitutional right to keep and bear arms provisions. That's the direction that the courts are headed at state and federal level.
Right. I mean, and that's a good thing, and that's kind of a shift that's taken place over the last 100 years, because there had been a previous U.S. Supreme Court ruling, what was it, 100 or some years ago, that was talking about a collective right.
The Miller case?
Yeah, maybe, was that it?
That the sawed-off shotgun case from the Prohibition era?
No, I thought there was one from like 1880s or something, that there was some kind of decision, but I could be wrong on that. I'll have to look into it, but... certainly, this is the strongest Supreme Court rulings that we have, both McDonald's and the Heller cases.
Yes, but they were both 5-4 decisions. Let's just say recently I was having this discussion with my law students because we were listening to the oral arguments in the Heller case and the McDonald case from the Supreme Court the last couple of weeks of our class.
Uh-huh.
And the interesting thing in my mind is the fact that a couple of the justices actually, during the Heller case, indicated that, based on their questions, they believed that incorporation of whatever the decision was in the Heller case to the states was a foregone conclusion. They mentioned thousands of judges around the country having to deal with whatever the results were from the Heller case. But then, a year and a half later, when they hear oral arguments in McDonald, these same anti-Second Amendment justices somehow came up with new arguments about why the Heller decision shouldn't be incorporated to the states, because they gave them another bite at the apple, another swing at the Second Amendment, basically.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, yeah. Because
it's a 5-4 decision. It could change. One justice changes, President Obama gets a chance to appoint one more justice.
Yeah.
If he replaces one of the five, we're in trouble again.
They could overrule it, I suppose. I think all hell would break loose, but as more and more people, I think, are becoming aware of how important the Second Amendment is to their personal freedoms and how the attack is unrelenting against us. Even those that were on the fence are out buying guns and starting to wake up. I think that's kind of the feeling I'm hearing, on the intersphere.
Well, I agree. Unrelenting, I think, is a great word. And what you guys do in terms of education is an important part of this. I absolutely agree with what you said in terms of waking up and people realizing that the Second Amendment is important. Folks like you and I knew this, and probably most of our listeners knew this even when it wasn't in the headlines, but we can all do our part with educating family and friends.
Yeah, we got to win the minds and hearts, I guess. And I think when people realize that, the federal government is like this horrible blob that is just seeping into every aspect of people's lives and trying to, interfere with states' rights and gaining more power all the time is a very frightening thing. Unfortunately, you hear people out there that are just the opposite of that, and they're like, bring it on. We want the federal government to take care of us, and wow, we have nothing to fear from our big brother, and everything's just fine. I just can't believe those people that think that way. And
I'm with you there.
Yeah, speaking of that, now, several states are introducing firearm protection acts, and some of the sheriffs now are saying that they will arrest federal agents if they try to enforce those acts. Is that possible? Can you fight the federal government that way, or is it just sort of a political theater, or it's a political statement?
Well, I believe it is possible, and there's no scholarly consensus right now regarding the meaning of the 10th Amendment and the relative powers of the federal and state governments. I feel very similar right now to how I felt about the pre-Heller decisions about the Second Amendment when I'm looking at what's going on right now with opinions on the 10th Amendment. For a long time, in fact, back when I was in college and law school, the Second Amendment wasn't taught to college students and law students. It was simply ignored. And the 10th Amendment's been in that same position for a long time.
Yeah.
And what brought the Second Amendment to the forefront and actually precipitated the Heller decision was a very interesting lawyer named Bob Levy, who basically got the Heller case started. The case was called Parker at the lower level, but Bob is a very interesting guy. He went to law school later in life than most people do, and he was just incensed at the violation of personal liberties that the District of Columbia was partaking in. And he pushed that case, and he funded it mostly out of his own pocket. Luckily, he had a great career and had plenty of resources. We need to have a similar fight with regard to the 10th Amendment because it's simply been ignored. And the 10th Amendment is very, very clear, very simple. It just says that those rights not delegated to the federal government are reserved for the states and the people. And the federal government, back in the FDR era, back during the era of the New Deal, decided that the only way to save us all from the Great Depression was to create these massive federal bureaucracies. Massive at the time. Nowadays, we'd probably feel that we'd lost a huge chunk of our government if we rolled things back to the FDR days, but it was a huge expansion of federal government. And the court upheld price controls on wheat or corn, I can't remember which, on a grain anyway, during World War II, to the extent that they actually prosecuted a farmer for feeding his own grain to his own cattle on his own farm. The federal government did.
Yeah.
And that was the day the tide turned. The case was called Wickard v. Filburn.
Yeah.
And ever since then, the federal government has acted as though they have this police power by pointing to the Commerce Clause.
Boy, howdy. That's the thing that's screwing us over and being misinterpreted, I think, and abused.
You brought up a good point with the FDR administration, and you mentioned the bill being proposed in Missouri. Other than FDR signing the executive order to take gold and things like that, did these sort of retroactive, if you have an assault weapon now, you're going to be a felon after 30 days, do they generally get through? Is that the sort of thing that even people in state legislatures will put up with and risk their careers passing?
Yeah, boy, one thing I've learned in the last 10 years or so in dealing with a lot of legislative issues is that being logical and correct is never enough. You've got to convince enough other folks to vote the right way. And it turns out I'm actually pretty bad at predicting how votes are going to come out.
Sure.
I think I'm pretty good at working on the logical and correct part,
Well,
but I have to rely on politicians to do their jobs.
Well, this is what you got to do, Stephen. What you got to do is just say, I think this is going to happen, and then just say the opposite, and you'll be right.
Right.
I think that's what you're going to have to do. And then you'll be 100%.
Well, sometimes I'm pleasantly surprised that the politicians do the logical and correct thing. It does happen. And what's logical and correct here is to realize that we've got this federalist system where the police power, which is the power to regulate for the health, safety, morals, and welfare of the public, is only vested in the states. It's not vested in the federal government. The states aren't mere departments of the federal government.
Yeah, that's what it's becoming.
The sovereign power.
Yeah. And the federal government continues to, what do you call it, extortion. If you don't do this, we're going to cut federal funding, or you're not going to play nice with the feds. We're going to take away this or that, and that's just horrible. They did that with the alcohol level. Yeah, speed limit, alcohol level. You better bring that down to 0.08 or whatever, and or you're going to lose all kinds of highway funding and stuff. And that's money that's coming from the states. How can they hold our own money? I mean, the audacity of the federal government is never ceases to amaze me. It's just
and you're preaching to the choir here. I believe that much of what the federal government does is what we call ultra virus or ultra virus, depending on how you pronounce the Latin, which means really a lot of what happens every day in the federal government is above and beyond the powers granted in the Constitution. There are whole departments of the federal government that have a very tenuous legal justification.
Well, in one, since we're talking about sort of guns in federal government, is the gun-free school zones. I mean, I don't know of any real prosecutions of that as a standalone charge, and I think part of the reason is they know I don't think it would stand up under constitutional scrutiny. I mean,
well,
even
that and how, I think you might have a point. It was struck down. I don't know if you guys are aware, but you know.
But then the Commerce Clause came in and screwed it over.
Right. So they took exactly the same bill and simply added the words that has moved in or may affect interstate commerce.
Right.
Yeah. And that's the justification for most of what the federal government does at this point.
Well, my opinion is that they're afraid to prosecute anybody just on that because I don't think it would stand up, and so it's a line without teeth, in my opinion. But
I've never had any conversations with federal prosecutors about that, so I can't even speculate as to why the number of prosecutions are what they are.
Are you aware of any that? I mean, I've always seen them in conjunction with some other felony or a misdemeanor, or somebody brings a gun there and commits a crime with it, then they throw it on. But I've never seen a law-abiding citizen, let's say, that had a gun
in a gun-free school zone and was prosecuted just for that. And we're trying to find one.
And the prosecution would have to come to the attention of the federal prosecutor, because I have never met a state prosecutor or assistant prosecutor who would even bring a prosecution under that federal law.
Right.
We've got layers of prosecutors out there, too. We've got city attorneys
Right.
who prosecute city ordinances, and county prosecutors that prosecute state statutes, and there'd have to be some kind of a reason to get the federal prosecutors involved. And they've got other priorities.
Right.
And frankly, they spend most of their time chasing drugs.
Yeah, that's another whole show, So the other thing is, so you think, getting back to the question I asked earlier, so you think, and that was the 10th Amendment that hasn't been tested, you think states could actually enforce, this firearm protection that, if the firearms made and produced in the state, screw the feds?
Well, it's a bubbling controversy. I believe that based on my reading and study of the Constitution and all kinds of cases, that the correct interpretation is that the states have the power to regulate here, and that the federal government is reaching beyond its powers. There is a case pending right now in, I believe it's the 8th Circuit, might be the 9th, no, it's the 9th Circuit, Court of Appeals in federal court on the Montana Firearms Freedom Act.
Yeah. I know that's out there.
Yeah, that's pending right now, and it's very interesting, and the briefs are all available online for folks who are interested. There's some really good ones by the Cato Institute and the Goldwater Institute that really lay out in fairly simple language. You don't have to be a lawyer to read these by any means. They lay out the arguments for why the Montana Firearms Freedom Act should be upheld as constitutional and proper.
Yeah. What do you think of the governor, what state was it, that took away the powers of the sheriff to arrest and enforce laws or something? It was out east somewhere.
Yeah, I didn't read any details on that one, honestly.
Who gives the sheriff's power? Is it the state?
Well, that's really a fascinating question, too. The counties really are subdivisions of the state.
Yeah, they're almost sovereign. Almost.
And so, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I said they're almost sovereign.
Well, they're almost sovereign, but they are. The police power ultimately does reside with the state. For instance, we're here in Michigan. The state of Michigan actually is the source of the police power, which is the power to arrest for violation of law or fine. So the county sheriff, even though he's elected by the population of his county or her county, is generally recognized as the highest level of law enforcement in that county. And that means when there's a conflict between the county sheriff and the state police, the county sheriff wins in terms of policy. However, that doesn't always happen the way it's supposed to either, and human beings develop habits over a few generations, and there is kind of a really basic, oversimplified belief that the bigger unit of government must be the more powerful and more correct, and there's a lot of that seeps into the minds of legislators and judges, and it's really important that we talk about this stuff and we have informed citizens actually think about it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Knowledge is power. It really is. The other thing is universal background checks. Now, we've talked about that. I have my opinions on that. I think that they're impossible to really implement. What are your thoughts on these so-called universal background checks? Will they work? How can they work? What's the cost involved? What are the ups and downsides?
Well, the cost would be possibly not much more than folks pay right now for private transactions. There are a couple of ways to do it. I think the one proposal that, among all the crazy proposals, the one that made the most sense was simply that if I wanted to sell you a gun, you and I would go down to the local FFL licensed dealer together at the same time, and we'd pay him some fee. I think they're usually charging about $40 or $50 for transfer fees right now at most FFL dealers I'm aware of. So somehow between you and I, we'd negotiate who's going to pay what part of that $40 or $50 fee, and then we would just run the buyer through NICS, and if it came back clear, then there'd be some signature from the dealer saying, yes, I called in and checked on NICS, and this was a good transaction, and then the seller keeps that piece of paper. that's the most sane of the proposals that I've heard.
Well, here's
it
the
doesn't create a registration.
Right. Here's the logical question: since there's no registration, and you and I want to make a deal, and you and I are the only ones that need to know, what has that accomplished? If we don't get a background check.
Oh, I don't think it accomplishes anything personally.
That's my point.
I think I just say of all the proposals, that's the one that would be the least frightening to me.
Yeah, well, it doesn't work. That's what I'm saying.
Right. It wouldn't work. But,
and don't tell me it doesn't cost anything, because we're paying federal agents to do a background check on you.
Oh, sure. It definitely has a cost.
So there's a cost, and there's another cost, and that's a safety issue when the federal government screws up and denies someone that could possess a firearm, which happens 1.5 million times, as we know, and delays someone from getting a firearm and puts that person in potential harm, like an ex-spouse, ex-girlfriend, boyfriend whose ex is threatening them. They go down to buy a gun. Oh, no, sorry, denied. And it's just a mistake on the government's part. That's a cost, too.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not advocating for universal background checks. I was just kind of leading up to the scariest scenario, which is
registration.
There's a national database of gun owners and which guns they own.
Right.
I think that's the ultimate goal, honestly, of some of the folks who are proposing this.
I concur with that. Yeah, I absolutely do. What I'm saying, though, without the registration, universal background checks are moot. They just don't do anything. It's a feel-good type of legislation.
Precisely.
And it costs money, and it can create safety issues.
Oh, no, I tell my law students, do not try to apply logic and common sense to the subject of gun control. You run the risk of an early stroke.
Yeah, and I'm getting there, I think, Yeah. I'm in my stroke year, so I got to be careful.
Yeah, there's really no comprehensive logic behind any of it. What we have with gun control, including most of the background check legislation that's even being proposed, is just an underlying fear. The late great Colonel Cooper called it hoplophobia, this irrational fear of weapons, and that's what drives most of the legislation.
Yeah, but is it though? Is it a fear of weapons, or is it really more sinister than that? That's what I've always asked myself. Can these legislators be that stupid and illogical? And I've had this discussion with you in private.
Sure.
And I say they can't be, and you say, oh yes, they can be.
Oh yes, they can be.
Yeah, and that's what's scary. The conspiracy side of me says, that the ultimate goal really isn't just safety and stuff. They just want to, control all the guns for some greater sinister plan. But, I don't know if that's true. I think maybe they're dumb enough. And I'll give you an example of that one legislator who thought Guam was going to tip over. You're aware of that, right?
Right.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, even in the gun control area, we've got this Carolyn McCarthy.
Oh, she is one ignorant woman.
Oh, we know that she got involved in politics when her husband was killed. I mean,
right.
You can't take that away from her. It was a tragedy that
right.
she suffered, and she decided to be interested. But she appears to be willfully ignorant, and she's the one who said that a barrel shroud is that shoulder thing that flips up when somebody asks her what a barrel shroud
and
was.
That empty guns do kill people.
Right.
And some other things. And Feinstein's no better, where she said the collapsible stock.
The sliding stock.
Well, the sliding stock will make a gun fully automatic.
Right.
And it's legal to buy that, she said. I mean,
well, I think she might have been referring to in her defense.
We know what she was referring to.
Yeah, Piers Morgan was doing stories on that slide fire. Yeah.
We know what she was referring to, but the point is, she's ignorant.
Yeah, absolutely right. And what we have is a group of legislators who are unashamed of their ignorance and yet willing to put forth proposals. And we know that what's happening then is the legislation is really being drafted by the Brady campaign. Yeah. And the legislators are just the salespeople for the Brady campaign's agenda.
Well, but people can say that about the NRA as well, right? I mean, they can say, well the NRA is drafting legislation.
Yeah, and the big difference between the two is the NRA legislators, and there are many who are active members of the NRA and don't hide it,
right.
They actually know what they're talking about.
Yeah, they generally try to support it with actual laws, or not laws, but statistics and facts and things.
And they tend to be shooters and understand firearms, whereas the Brady campaign's legislators they don't understand even how guns work, so why should they be legislating them?
Right. Well, in regards to the assault weapon ban, we actually do have data, right? We have a 10-year period of data that we can look at and say, did it work or didn't it work, or was it neutral? And what I'm understanding, it was fairly neutral. It didn't really...
Yeah, in order to be intellectually honest, though, we have to say that the first assault weapon ban was full of holes. It grandfathered in every so-called assault weapon, and I'm sure you and I are on the same page. We don't accept that term because it's really just a term that's meant to frighten the public and confuse the public. It's a misleading term, but every one that was in private hands got grandfathered in. In fact, I personally remember I purchased an AK semi-automatic, a Chinese AK, the day before the first President Bush banned importation of them, and the price went up a little when he banned importation of them. But then in '94, when the so-called assault weapons ban went in, the value of that gun in my safe tripled overnight and stayed for most of that 10-year period. And then it fell again after the assault weapon ban expired. But in the meantime, somebody who hadn't made that early purchase could go to a local store and buy basically the same gun with a slightly different stock, with a slightly different muzzle device,
right,
and with no bayonet lug, and they were purchasing the same gun that I had. So, the interesting thing for me about the assault weapon ban is it really wasn't a ban, and it was pretty flat statistically. It was basically flat. I mean, the truth is rifles aren't used in crime very often, any type of rifle, even the scary-looking ones.
Right. That was the point I was going to bring up. Just you beat me to it. Is that?
Oh, sorry.
No. That's fine. I'd rather have you say it because you're smarter than I am. But the assault weapon, isn't used very often in crimes. The idea that they're cop killers and that's what all the gangsters are out there shooting up all the cops with. For one thing, cops are one of the safest professions in the country. I mean, statistically, they're lower than a lot of other occupations, and they tend to be, gangsters don't have assault rifles. They carry, inexpensive pistols that they can get, on the black market type of thing. So,
well, not surprisingly, if you actually look at the numbers, the guns used in crime are the same guns that are used by police for the most part.
Yeah.
There are exceptions, though, and I think your listeners might be interested in one specific case that I'm aware of a Michigan police officer who was shot in the line of duty by drug dealers. And he was ambushed, basically. The two police officers were ambushed as they were walking up to a house on a radio call by three guys in a van, and one of the guys in the van had an SKS rifle that was manufactured in Eastern Europe, and it was recovered at the scene. Luckily, both officers survived. The one officer still has one of those SKS bullets in his hip. It's never going to be able to be removed because of the way it's located next to his nerves.
Yeah.
So he carries that bullet with him. But the interesting thing about the rifle is it was run by the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, or as I call it, the Bureau of All Fun Things.
Yep.
And they came back and said that gun, that SKS rifle, and they knew exactly where it was manufactured in Yugoslavia, it was never legally imported into the United States. So what that one shows is that no matter what we do with bans or anything else, even if we have 100% compliance by U.S. citizens who suddenly decide to disarm themselves in the interest of the common good, we'll never be able to stop the drug gangs from bringing guns in.
Yeah, that's true, and that's another issue. I mean, I think if you legalized or somehow better handled the drug issue, a lot of the violent crime would drop overnight.
Yeah, I agree.
Because a lot of it is,
the statistics bear that out. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're closing up on the time we have. Stephen, also, don't you have a company that produces study guides for law, bar exams, and graduate entrance exams and things?
Yeah, we do. No, it's out there in the stores. I think the website that I'd really like to get out to your listeners, more importantly, though, is mcrgo.org. And I encourage everybody who's listening to consider joining, because we need all the allies we can when we go talk to our legislators. And if you're not in Michigan, join your state's group. It's great that we're all members of the NRA, assuming we are, but the state-based groups are actually where the fight is happening most of the time.
That's the troops on the ground, isn't it?
That's right.
Well, we're going to post you on our website with your professional your website. So if people want to contact you or get a hold of you, they can do that through your website, right through your business.
Absolutely.
And I want to thank you very, very much for being on the show and also for what you do in defense of the Second Amendment. I wish we had 100,000 people like yourselves out there fighting and putting in the time that you do.
Thanks, Brian. Same to you, by the way.
Okay, thank you.
You too.
The voice of American conservatism. WRS Digital, Red State Talk Radio.
Hey, Nate.
Yeah, Brian?
You like candy, don't you?
Oh, I love candy.
Well, then you're going to love this site I found. It's Old Time Candy, and they have the kind of candy you ate as a kid.
Oh, really? That's really cool.
Yes, Nate, it is cool. It's the bee's knees and the cat's pajamas. They have candies from the 1920s right up to now. If you can't decide what you want, you can order various size decade boxes. They have Slowpokes, Black Cows, Wax Lips, Root Beer Barrels, Fruit Stripe Gum, Atomic Fireballs, and the politically incorrect bubblegum cigarettes. They have regional candies you can only get in certain parts of the country, like the Goo Goo Clusters. And they have old-fashioned toys and so much more. If you want a trip to the past, click on the banner on our webpage at www.atoddshow.com. You won't be disappointed.
Real radio for real Americans.
Red State Talk Radio.
Hey, Brian, you like beer.
I do.
And liquor, too.
Oh, I enjoy a wee bit.
And I've definitely seen you drink a glass of wine or two.
Yes? Why are you asking me all this?
Well, I found an excellent online source for all kinds of spirits. It's called Wine Globe. They have a fantastic selection of wines, beers, and liquors, from moderate price selections up to high-end and hard-to-find brands. So, if you're interested in ordering your favorite drink or exotic spirits, they're all located at your fingertips. All you have to do is head over to www.atoddshow.com, click on the Wine Globe banner, and start your search today. And we are back.
It's good to be back.
That was Stephen Dulan. I believe his website is stephenwdulan.com.
It is.
You can find it on our website, www.atoddshow.com, or check out our Facebook page, facebook.com/atoddshow. We did mention the Missouri legislation, but what we didn't get to was another legislator in Missouri who proposed a bill that says, this is the entire bill, really, any member of the General Assembly who proposes a piece of legislation that further restricts the right of an individual to bear arms, as set forth under the Second Amendment of the Constitution of the United States, shall be guilty of a Class D felony.
Bam!
Bam is right. Bam is right. Like
I love it.
Like that moron that was doing the sensitivity training for the USDA.
Yeah. I don't know if it'll pass, but that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it won't. It won't pass. And
No,
he said he has no illusions that it might pass.
He's making a statement.
He is,
and I think that's a great thing.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we're closing up on our time here. Head over to our Facebook page. Remember, we are live Tuesdays at 7:30. You're listening now, hopefully live. We're rebroadcast on Red State
and if you're
Talk
not
Radio.
listening, disregard that.
Yeah, redstatetalkradio.com. We're live. Or we're rebroadcast there Wednesdays at 10 a.m., Friday morning at 1 a.m., and Sundays at, I'm pretty sure, Sundays at noon.
Well, Sunday's at noon, but I think it's Saturday at 1.
Check the schedule. Brian's confusing you. It's not true, and
Nate's always right.
What you can do?
I should just accept him. He is always correct.
True. All right, well, we want to thank you for listening to At Odds.
Bye-bye now.